Hi, my name is Beth Niehues. I teach in the computer science department, and Jana has asked me to share some tips and tricks regarding Camtasia with you today. I have a lot to cover, so I'm going to go over as much as I can in about a 45-minute window and leave questions for the last 15 minutes. So let's get started. I have sent out a PDF document that has slides that I'm going to follow. So if you'd like to follow along, feel free to use the Camtasia Tips and Tricks PDF or PPT file that I sent out. Okay, let's first talk about creating a project. It is very important that you create a folder structure for your projects, because as you start creating Camtasia projects, you're going to realize that the more in depth you get with this Camtasia software, the more files you're going to be using. And as you add more files, it can get more and more difficult to keep up with everything. So what I always do is create a folder for every single video project that I want to work on. That way, next semester when I want to improve it in some form or fashion, it's very easy for me to find all of the files that I used to create that project. Now, when you create your new project in Camtasia, it is always named Untitled Project, and the file extension is .tscproj. So the first thing that I do when I create a new Camtasia project is a file save as, and I save that project file in that newly created folder that I built for that specific project. And then I already have everything set up so that when I start saving my project as I'm working on it, it'll be saving in the right location with the right name. Now, if you look on the right hand side, you can see that I have a folder structure over there, and for each lab that I worked on post-COVID, I created a folder. And then on the right hand side, you can see that in that Lab 34 folder, the highlighted file name lab34.tscproj is the Camtasia project file. And then you'll see some other file extensions. Those M4A files are audio recordings that I made from within Camtasia. And then the .trec files, those are screen captures that I used Camtasia to get. So everything's out there in this nice little organized folder, and it will be easy for me to work on next semester when I want to edit my video. Okay, so moving on, let's talk a little bit about recording content from within Camtasia. One of the nice things about Camtasia is that you can capture screen or webcam or both all at the same time and your voice, and then put all of that together and create a nice video. So in Camtasia, the record button is easy to find. It's up on the upper left hand side, and you just click that recording button, and then you get a pop-up window that allows you to customize your recording options. So that number one you see on the right hand side, this is allowing you to determine what you want to capture. Do you want the full screen captured? Do you want to capture just a custom area, just a region of your screen, and so on? Okay, the next part, number two, is the webcam. So you can turn off the webcam and only capture the screen, or if you turn that on, you will get two video recordings, the actual screen capture, and you will get what your webcam is recording. And then that audio on off button allows you to record your webcam audio as well, so you can turn that on or off too. All right, so when you're ready to record, when you have your options set correctly, you can push this record button. There is an option to just use the F9 key to start recording, and then it will count down and start recording your screen. And when you're finished, you'll have the option to click the stop button or F10. Now, while you're recording, if you mess up completely, you can click this delete button and it'll let you start from scratch, or you can always click this pause button if you need to regain your thoughts and then start recording again. Now, when you click stop, it's going to throw you back in Camtasia, and it's going to ask you, but before it throws you back in Camtasia, it's going to ask you to name your file. Now, this is the TREC extension down here at the bottom. I'm showing you that all files that you capture from within Camtasia, all video files and video and audio, end in .trec. So name your file a self-documenting name so that when you come back to it next semester or next year, you will be able to determine what you saved in that file. In other words, what you captured just by looking at the file name. Before I describe this slide, I want to capture some audio and video, pull it into Camtasia, and then use that to explain everything that's on this slide. When you launch Camtasia, the default name for a project is Untitled Project. Remember, the first thing I said that I do is do a file, save as, and rename this project as something that matches its purpose. So I'm going to call this one Camtasia Tips and Tricks. Go ahead and save that. And as I capture audio and video, it's going to go ahead and save it in the actual physical location, the same location as this Camtasia Tips and Tricks file. So I'm going to go ahead and click record and start recording some screen content. Okay, I am now capturing what I see on my screen, and so I can go through different applications and narrate them as I capture them. So here I am in a browser window. I can talk about this. For me, a computer science person might want to see a coding window. I can describe my program, what the students need to write, and then once I'm finished, I can click stop and go ahead and get back to my actual Camtasia window, and it will automatically pull my video and audio clip in. I am going to use the clip that we just recorded to describe the pieces and parts of the Camtasia desktop. First, let's take a look at the media bin. This is the library. This is where all of your files that you use in your Camtasia video project will reside. So when you record something from Camtasia or you capture something from Camtasia, this is where they will show up. Likewise, when you pull something in from some external source, this is where you will see them as well. At the bottom, what this area is called is the timeline. Now, in the timeline, you see tracks. So the timeline is made up of tracks. They're like layers. So if you've worked in Photoshop or something like that, one track is like a layer on top of another track. So that if you actually have multiple layers of something visual, a higher track will cover a lower track. And your content in your timeline works left to right. So what you can do is use what is called a playhead and drag it left to right. And as you drag it left to right, you will see in your canvas window, and this is the canvas window here, is this specific moment in time marked by the playhead. So you can add media to your timeline. You can add annotations and transitions to your clips here in your timeline, and they will always be shown here in your canvas window. So down here in my timeline, you see my video track and my audio track. I can edit these separately or at the same time, and I'll go into more detail in a bit when I teach you editing techniques. But for now, I want to show you that there's options to zoom out on your timeline as well as zoom in. And when you zoom in, this will help you edit your audio because you can see your inflections in your voice as you are narrating your clips. Okay, this magnifying glass fits everything into view in your timeline. So when you click on it, everything comes into view, everything that you're working on, or you can use this slider bar to zoom in and zoom out. And then this play button here, I'm going to go where I'm not speaking so it's not interrupting. I can actually play, pause. This will allow me to go to one frame at a time, next frame, previous frame. This will take me to the end of my clip. So a little bit about these buttons. These are my zooms, and then I will go into these buttons here in more detail in a bit. Know that I can add media files, different types of media, by clicking on this plus button and add them to or importing them into my media bin. So I'm going to import some files that I already have out here in my Camtasia Tips and Tricks folder. Notice that I have some JPEGs out there. Those can be imported. I can import multiple video file types, as well as these TREC files are my captured files, and then M4A files are audio files. So all of those types can be added here to the media bin. Also know that you could import a PowerPoint into the media bin. So if you choose to import a PowerPoint, what it actually does is it imports a PNG file for every single slide. So if I choose to do that, this camtasia.pptx file, I'm going to get a single image file for every single slide on that PowerPoint, and then I can narrate those from within my Camtasia application. Now know also that when you work on these, they're going to have a default time. In other words, when you drag them down to the timeline, they have a default time. So the default is determined, and let me make this, I've got my timeline really zoomed in. The default time here, it looks like it's about 5 seconds. You can set your default time lengths by going to Edit, Preferences, and then underneath Timing, these are the default durations, and that was image files. So the default duration here is 5 seconds. You can change that for your project if you know that you're going to be pulling in PowerPoint images, for example, and narrating them, so you can make that a longer duration. While I'm here, let me show you that the default settings for the project canvas, this is what we're looking at behind us, is actually 1920 by 1080, which is high definition. And I like to record in high def because I can actually set my canvas in high definition and I can produce in high definition, and then there is no scaling necessary and I will have a clear, crisp picture. Okay, if you pulled your project in and you need to change it, you can go to File, Project, Settings, and change the resolution of your current project here. So what I was looking at previously was the default settings for any project. This is the current project settings. Once again, that's accessible through File, Project, Settings. You can also capture voice narration from within Camtasia just by clicking on voice narration and then start recording. As soon as you start recording, it starts capturing your voice. You can also type a script here if you're trying to narrate something that is on your canvas. So there's multiple options to actually capture audio from within Camtasia as well. Okay, next I want to show you that you can actually record from within PowerPoint because it has a Camtasia add-in. So before you can do this, you have to make sure that the add-in is enabled. So if you go to add-ins on your PowerPoint version and you don't see these icons, then the Camtasia add-in hasn't been enabled. So you can go to File and then Options, and there under add-ins at the very bottom, you can go to Disabled Items and click Go. And there you should see your Camtasia add-in that you can go ahead and enable. Mine is enabled, so there's nothing for me to enable. You can also see here, once you click on add-ins, that there are some buttons that will allow you to modify what you are recording. This button allows you to modify the mic. In other words, I want to either record my audio or not record my audio. This next button allows me to record what my webcam is capturing, as well as my PowerPoint when I start recording. And then this button, well, this lets me preview my camera so I can get a preview of what my camera is actually recording. And then also I get this button as well, the options here on this button. And the one option that I think is very important to set is this capture system audio. It actually needs to be turned off because this will capture any of the chimes that you hear in the background. In other words, when you get new email, it will actually record your audio bell. So I always turn that off. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that I use notes down here. I always enable notes because this is where I put my script. So within PowerPoint, when you start recording, you can see the screen that it's capturing and you can see the notes. And it's not capturing the notes, but you can read the notes. So this is a great place to place your script. So I always place my script in the notes. So if you don't know how to get to the notes, you can go to View and then Notes, and this turns them either on or off, but I always turn mine on, place my script here if I'm going to use the Camtasia add-in to record my PowerPoint slides. Okay, to record from PowerPoint using the add-in, I click this record button. I now see my entire screen, and in this window you can see that I have my actual slide, and on the right hand side are the notes, and up here you'll always see the next slide. So if I go down to the next slide, PowerPoint will only capture this area of the screen, and I can read from this area. So if I create my script over here on the right hand side, as I go through my slides, I am only capturing what you see here in the middle, and this on the right hand side is actually my script. So it makes a great way for me to go ahead and narrate my slides as I am going through them one by one. Okay, I have used the PowerPoint add-in, the Camtasia add-in, to actually record this clip to show you that I'm really just getting the left middle part of my screen, but what I can see on my screen is my notes, which includes my script, and I've turned on from my PowerPoint options the ability to not only capture my screen, but I'm also capturing my webcam. So if you want to do the picture-in-picture where your students can actually see you while you're talking, that is also an option from the Camtasia plugin that goes along with PowerPoint. Okay, I also want to show you that just because you've recorded your video with picture-in-picture, I have used the PowerPoint. You may not want that in all cases. So notice that I have, let me delete that. I have here two different tracks, and one is my audio and one is my capture, but you don't see the picture-in-picture. But I can click on this audio track, right-click on it, and do a separate audio and video, and I now have my audio separated from my webcam capture. So this allows me to only display pieces and parts. I can modify this clip and only display it part of the time. Once I show you some of the editing techniques, you'll see that you can turn it on and off so that it only displays on the screen part of the time or none of the time. And so if you decide you don't want it at all, you can delete that entire track just by highlighting it. Notice I have it highlighted, and now I click the delete key and it is gone. I can move my audio track down, and now all I have is my screen capture and my audio. Okay, I've added back that track that had my webcam in it, and I want to show you that this is sizable. You can use this webcam track and you can zoom in on it. Your resolution will be the resolution of your webcam, so know that you don't have to leave it here down at the bottom as a very small part of your video. If there's a portion of it where you want it larger, you can zoom in on it and then you can zoom back out, and you can use this as appropriate for your presentation. Okay, so the rest of this presentation will be in the Collaborate session that was live, and we are going to be continuing on with slide 9, which is editing video in that Collaborate session. Okay, so let me show you a little bit about these controls. Once again, this is the playhead. These controls right here, the minus sign zooms out, the plus sign zooms in. So sometimes when you're working with audio and you need to cut out just a few words and replace them, which I tend to do frequently because I say the wrong thing, you can easily zoom in, see where your inflection changes, and in that audio timeline cut out what you need to. This magnifying glass will take your timeline back to full screen. Notice when I click it, you can see everything. If you zoomed in really tight and you want to get back to where you were, just click the magnifying glass and it'll put you back to fit to window, basically. Your timeline will fit to window. Okay, so these buttons move the playhead. So when I click this play button, notice my playhead starts moving, and I'm playing my video.
Parallel arrays and how to process the related data.
So the pause button stops, and that allows me to start working with where I am currently with the playhead. These buttons move a frame at a time, so sometimes you need to just move a little bit. These buttons over here on the right, I'm hoping you can see where I am, take you to the end of the frame or the beginning of the frame. The scroll bar down here at the bottom will let you scroll. So if I've zoomed in and my clip is bigger than my screen, I can use this scroll bar at the bottom to scroll through my timeline. Okay. One thing you need to know is that when you're working with these, well, let me first import some more data so I can show you what I'm talking about. Let me import some more files. Some of the things I want to work with are this guy and this guy and this guy. And I'm going to get some audio. So see these M4A files? These are audio files. If I tried to import this PPTX file, it is going to import, and this is good to know because some people like to narrate from within Camtasia, which is perfectly fine. So if I were to import this PPTX file, what it's going to do is take an image for every single slide, and it's going to pull it in as a single image. Every slide will be a single image, and then I can drag those down on the timeline and make them longer or shorter based on my narration, and I can narrate easily from within Camtasia. So that is an option. Let me see if I've got what I want. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open these. All right, so I've added some files into my media bin for me to work with. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and then I want to show you how to narrate. So let's say that I have added something to my window down here that I want to talk about, and I'm going to make it a little longer by clicking on the end and pulling it open. And let's say that I want to narrate this information. So I'm going to put my timeline over here, my playhead, excuse me, and my timeline. And then I'm going to go to this voice narration, and I can click start recording. And as soon as I click start recording, it starts capturing my voice. And when I have created everything that I need, I click stop, and notice that it pops up a file name. I can name this whatever I want. So I'm going to call it sample narration, and I am already in the correct folder. If it defaults to a different folder, make sure you put it in the right folder. Remember I said put everything in the same folder so you stay organized. Oh, I misspelled narration. Okay, so we're going to click save. And now if I click play here, you're going to hear my voice from a while ago. Start recording, and as soon as I click start recording, it starts capturing my voice. And when I have created everything, okay, so that's how you can narrate from within. And then you can change the length to match your narration of your slides if you've used PowerPoint slides or whatever it is that you are discussing. I think that's all I want to talk about on that. So let's talk a little bit about how we can trim. So I know at the end of this file clip I had a mess up, and I want to get rid of everything at the end. So one of the things I can do is highlight both. So what I did here is I did a click, and then I did a shift click or control click, either one works, and I've selected both of these. See, they're both highlighted, and I want to crop off the end of that. So I can just drag that, and it's really good about snapping to the playhead. So I've got this hole created here, which is fine. I can get rid of that hole by highlighting these. Now I've selected these by drawing a box around them. That's another way to select items. Notice I still have a space here in my timeline. So if I just want to move this one over a tad bit, I can by clicking on it and moving it. So you can move one clip at a time, or you can move multiple clips at a time. All right, moving on. If you're following along, I'm on editing video on slide 10 in the PowerPoint if you're trying to follow along. So sometimes when you're recording, you make mistakes. I do it all the time. And so when I'm narrating something, which I was narrating this, and I mess up, I'll say starting over, and that's my cue that I need to delete the previous verbiage that I had recorded. So I'm going to show you what I mean. Here's some recording. Final description. Starting over. So that's how I know I messed up. I said starting over. So then what I will do is drag my, so I'm clicking here on this little green area, And I know where I messed up because I marked it a while ago, but sometimes you have to go back and figure out where you messed up. But this is where my mess up starts. I want to get rid of all of this. Now, there's two ways you can get rid of all of this. You can either hit the delete key, and that leaves this big hole in your timeline, or I'm going to hit Control Z here and put it back because I'm going to show you another way. There is this cut option over here, and not only will it get rid of it, but it's going to slide everything on the right, left, and get rid of that empty space in my timeline. So I'm clicking cut, and now I have, if you can see closely, a stitched together clip, both audio and video. So that's one way to fix mess ups. There's other ways. Let me show you how to do a ripple split. Now, ripple split's pretty handy because when you do a ripple split, it cuts it and it allows you to shift everything. So what I'm going to do is go here where I have this blank space, and then I'm going to hold down my shift key. So you can't see this, but I'm holding down my shift key and I'm dragging the playhead, and look, it's moving everything to the right of me. So that's a handy way to make a space in your timeline if you want to add some a clip here in this space. So I'm going to put that back where it was, and I want to show you that it actually split. Remember, this was two separate, this was one clip and this was another clip altogether. I'm going to do Control Z so you can see what I was dealing with. See, I had a single clip, but if I need it to be two separate clips, I can hold down my shift key, ripple split, and there we go. All right, I'm going to take that back to where it was. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you how to stitch right now. So shift, pull it back. I want to put these back where they were. Oops, I've drug them all down. All right, so sometimes you want to work with something as one clip. So notice these are two clips right here. I can right click in this space and I can stitch them together. So I'm going to choose Stitch Media. And now look, this will work. I can move this as one clip, not treat it as two. When they're separate, you have to work with them separately. But if I want to work with them as one clip, I right click and choose Stitch Media, and now it's like they're sewn together, they're glued together, and I can work with them as one. All right, so I'm going to do a couple of undos because I want to use them separately. I want to show you how to do a ripple move. I am trying to move this by clicking and dragging. So you see those yellow bars? I'm dragging to the right now, but it will not let me move this. It's because I have a clip down here behind it. So if I want to shift everything and make a space right here, I can hold down my shift key and it will allow me to move it to the right. So notice it takes everything to the right with it. Likewise, I'm going to do Control Z, undo. I want to do both of them at the same time. Click, shift, click. Now hold down your shift key and select one of them or the other and drag, and you're moving them both at the same time. Just remember that if it won't move, hold down your shift key and then it will move. All right, there's also the extend frame. So sometimes this video down here you want to make longer. If you hold down your Alt key, it's probably really hard for you to see, but notice my cursor is that little empty box with an arrow. This is going to replicate the frames and extend them out. So I've just extended this video clip and it replicated my frames. The last frame is replicated when you choose Extend Frame. Once again, that is your Alt key. So to do these ripple moves and ripple splits, it's your Shift key. To do the Extend Frame, it's your Alt key. All right, so when you are splitting and extending your frame, it's handy to do a ripple move and an extend frame so that you can extend your video and then add the audio that you need just in case you needed to add more narration. Cursor effects. Let me show you cursor effects. I actually added some media called Cursor Effect T-Rec because in that file I am moving my cursor around a whole lot. And so what I'm going to do is oh, by the way, you can select everything in your timeline by doing a Control A, and I'm going to get rid of it. And then I'm going to drag that cursor effects down here to my timeline because I want to show you what you can do with your cursor. I used this one because I moved my cursor around a lot. I'm dragging my playhead. See how my cursor's moving? So if you go to cursor effects, you can drag one of these effects down onto your actual media clip, and it'll affect that part of the media clip. So know that if you don't want it to affect the entire clip, go ahead and split your clip. So I'm going to do Control Z here and show you what I mean by splitting your clip. I have it highlighted, and then I can just go ahead and split here it is, split. This button right here is split, and it will split it at the playhead. So I'm going to split my clip right here, and now I actually have two separate clips, and I want to apply this cursor highlight just to the first one. And so watch what happens when I click play. And by the way, there's the student name array. Here's the elements in the student name array. Here is the student ID array, and here are the elements in the student ID array. And here's the age. So notice that the highlight went away because I actually went to the next clip, and well, it's actually viewing the next clip based on that playhead. All right, but a few more things about this. There's this properties window I told you about a while ago. So see how bright this cursor is? And it's pretty typical of Camtasia to have very bright highlights and I forgot the other word, but anyway, it's always too much for me. So you can actually scale this down. You can change this opacity down here so that it's not so bright, if that's what you prefer. You can change the size. There's controls for every effect that you pull onto your timeline. Just know that you control all of those in the properties window. So you always have to select what you're dealing with. So here I want to select this cursor highlight, and then this is the properties for my cursor highlight over here. Does that make sense? There's other cursor effects you can play around with, but I want to keep going because I want to show you some other things. All right, I'm going to get rid of this again. And I'm going back to the media. I'm going to pull a little bit that long one back in here. A little bit of review. It's all in one. If you want it in two tracks, you need to split it. Right click, separate audio video. What I want to show you is how you can edit your audio. So sometimes, especially when I am merging two audio clips together, one is louder than the other. Maybe I am using a different mic. So you can adjust it here by dragging it up or down to adjust your audio. Or maybe there's a specific part that you spoke softly in and you want it louder. So if there's just a specific part, you can double click on your audio clip in your timeline, and it'll give you what is called an audio point. So let's say that I want to make this part right here a little bit louder. So I've added 3 audio clips, and what I'm going to add 4. I'm going to move this one over a bit, and watch what I can do. I can make this part much louder in between here. This is the bass, and so if I click play, you're going to hear me get much louder. Asked 2 functions through arguments, and how a value can be returned by a function. This practice final is very similar to the programming final. So it is to your... So that's an example of how to control the audio. There's also audio effects. I rarely use these, but you can fade in, fade out. This is more like when you're creating a video with music and that type of stuff. But know that you can play around here with these audio effects. And remember, you have the ability to record from within Camtasia using the voice narration. Okay, I'm on slide 15 now if you're following along. I've already showed you the canvas and the properties panel. I think you're, I'm going to play with it a little bit more and explain what they do. Before I do that, I want to put some new clips down here in my timeline. So I'm going to get rid of these. I'm going to go back to my media, and I want to add some windows that I captured. So what I'm adding now are JPEG files. This is just a plain old JPEG. I captured my web browser's screen. It's a screenshot of my web browser. And it's very, very small, and I did that for a reason, because I want to show you how to zoom. The other thing I want to show you is how to make this longer and how to control the length of your clips by default. So right now you can see that the default, you might not be able to see it, but it's 5 seconds. The default length of this JPEG is 5 seconds. To make it longer, I can drag it, and now it is around 17, 18 seconds. This is 20 right here. All right, but if you want your default length of the clips that you bring in longer, your JPEG files and your PDF files, you can control that. You go to Edit, Preferences, and here under Timing, you can see all the default timings for your entire project. So notice this is set to 5 seconds. So that is going to be the default duration of any image that you pull in. There's also default transitions, so 1 second for all transitions. Annotations are 5 seconds, animations are 1 second. So as you start working in Camtasia, you'll probably want to adjust these. And this brings me to another point. Here under Project, remember I said it's always a good idea to record your project in high definition, set your project settings to high definition, and then also produce in high definition. Well, here's where you control that. These are my project settings. So it's a 1920 by 1080, which is full HD. So you can set that to what you need. I realize that some monitors aren't high definition, so in that case, you will need to record at a lower resolution. Also, if you've recorded in a lower resolution, and you've brought it in at something different, you can go to File, Project Settings. These are the current project settings. So this clip that I'm working on, this current project, Camtasia Tips and Tricks.tscproj, is currently at this 1920 by 1080 resolution. So these are the current project settings. What I was at before are the default settings. And I will show you how to control the production settings here in a bit. All right, so I have this array windows here. It's a JPEG. I'm going to zoom in a tad bit, and I want to show you how to zoom in on a specific part of this. So in order to do that, you need to go to Animations and then click Animations up here at the top, and I want to drag to my timeline a scale up. So right here at 1 second, I'm going to zoom in. So as I drag my playhead to the left, this is what it looked like before. And then if I put my playhead on the right-hand side of that animation, you're going to see what it looks like after. But let's say that it's not zoomed in on the right part, so I can control that. Remember I said you can control in your canvas what you want everything to look like. I can go over here to my Properties window and scale my canvas even more. I can zoom in even more. Let's say that I want to talk about this right here. So I have, before my scale up, have my document that looks like this, and then it looks like this. Now, I want to highlight what I'm talking about while I'm talking about it. So I'm going to add an annotation, and I want to add a highlight. It's called a spotlight. So here I've added my spotlight. It throws it in the middle, but I can move this just by dragging my mouse. I get to place it where I want it on my canvas. And it's very bright, so you can actually turn that intensity down over here in the Properties window so that your student can still see the other part of your document if you wish. So there's a spotlight. And let's say that after I've talked about this, I want to talk about this student array. So in order to do that, I could drag another one down to my timeline and adjust it, or another thing to do is copy paste. Control C, I have this highlighted, Control C is copy, Control V will paste it at the playhead. Now it's got this same student array highlighted, but I can control that. I can move it down, adjust the size, and my intensity is still the way I had it. So let me show you what we have so far. If we play our playhead, you see a zoom, you see a highlight, you see another highlight. Now, those are pretty drastic highlights, so let's do a transition to fade those in so they're not so bright. So if I add a fade here, and I'm going to do it, I can adjust the length of time the fade is by just clicking and holding down my mouse. So I'm adjusting my fade here. I'm going to make this a little bit longer so I have the ability to add another fade out. Put the fade out and then the fade in and then the fade out. And I'm going to adjust the length here. Make them shorter to show you what I mean. So let's play this. So I've added some fades to my transitions. To my spotlights. Looks a little better. Okay, now let's say that I want to talk about what's down here at the bottom and I can't see it, but I know it's on my document. So I can get to that by adding a animation. Go back to animations, and then it needs to be a custom animation. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan down. Remember, when you have added one of these animations, on the left is what it is before. When your playhead is to the left of your animation, it's what it looks like prior to the custom animation. And when you move your playhead to the right, that's when you're controlling what it looks like after. So what I want to do is move in my canvas down here so that I can actually talk about the student grade array. So let's go ahead and, oops. Yeah, let's do that. Let's move it down. Let's play that and see what we have. So I'm playing, zoom in, spotlight, spotlight, pan. All right, now I want to talk about this. So let's say that instead of using a highlight, I want to try a sketch, and I want to sketch around this. Once again, you can go to Annotations, and there's lots of options. I'm going to put a square sketch here, and it's going to, remember, if you put your playhead over it, then you can control it. So I put my playhead on top of my animation, and I'm going to move it. Oops. I'm moving the whole thing. Okay, that's because, notice I was moving everything because I accidentally selected both. Really, all I want selected here is my annotation, my sketch. So I put a square around it, and there is a sketch motion. All right, I'm also going to layer some video on top of this because I want to talk about this, and I also want to talk about the type of code that can process, the nested loops that can process this. So I'm going to drag down here a nested loop JPEG image. It's covering everything. It's selected, so I can control it right here. I can move it. I can put it where I want it. It's kind of hard to read, so what I can do is put a border on it. So if I go to Visual Effects, I can go to Border. This is putting the border on a JPEG image. Over on the right-hand side is my, so I have to drag the border first to the image, and then I can control my effect. I've clicked on the bottom. In the Properties window, you can see my border effects. So inside here, I have the ability to change my properties for my border. It's white. Let's make it a different color. Let's make it blue. So there we go. Make it a little thicker. And let's also put a behavior on it. So right now, if I move this playhead, I'm going to show you what we have so far. We've panned, and we start talking about, I want to talk about the code that processes this two-dimensional array down here. Another thing I can do is add a behavior. These are pre-written behaviors, but they're really pretty handy to use. So I can put this as well on top of my nested loop, and it's going to slide in. So let me show you again what it looks like now with the second behavior added to it. So it slides in, and notice that opacity change. So sometimes the behaviors have things that you really don't want. So I can click that border, and I can go to the effects over here. Oops, I don't know what happened. Oh, I lost my border. All right, so in my border, I had a blue color. I'm going to change that back. I lost it a while ago. And the color, make it bigger. Okay, there's my border back. And then here is my, I was losing opacity. I wanted to show you that you can modify these pre-programmed behaviors. So it was 65% opacity, but I don't ever want to lose the image, so I'm going to keep it at 100%. So then when I play it, I get my sketch, it slides in, I don't lose any opacity, and then it goes away. Now let's say that I want to get back to 100% on my screen here on my canvas. In other words, I want to talk about the entire document, whatever it is. So to do that, I go back to my animations and drag this custom animation down to the timeline. Now I'm going to move this over a bit. I'm going to make this shorter so that we can play it in a minute. Now remember, if your playhead's before, this is before the animation, this is what it looked like before. After is where it needs to be in order for me to control what it needs to look like after the custom animation occurs. So I want to get back to normal. So over here on the right hand side, my mouse is over here. I'm going to set everything back by clicking these arrows. And now I'm back to where I started, and I can play this from beginning to end. So you can see what I'm talking about. If this happens, you just have to drag them back because, okay, I'm going to click play. We're going to go through everything that we just did. Oh my, I'm running out of time. I got to show you how to export right quick. Okay, let's say that our video is exactly the way we want it and we're ready to produce it. It took me forever to figure this out because it is not easily, it's not easy to find. But over here on the right hand side is the share button. I'm used to finding export or something like that, but this is how you produce your video. So use the share button and then choose local file. And these are your settings. Remember I said it's best to do 1920 by 1080. So there's several options. I need to tell you what the difference between this one and this one is. So MP4 only, you're just going to get the MP4 file. If you choose this one with the Smart Player, it actually exports along with the MP4 file a player so that if you have your own web server, you can actually play your video from a web browser with the HTML file that it exports along with the MP4 file. I'm going to choose next here. Remember, you've created a folder, so save to your folder. If it's not right here, choose the folder that you created so the MP4 file is right there with all of your project files. Click Finish, and then it's going to render. So the longer your video is, the more time it takes to render this. And then once you've got it rendered, you'll have out in your file folder an MP4 file. So I'm going to click Finish, and then I'm going to go show you how to import that file into YouTube. Let's pull it into YouTube. All right, so I've created on YouTube a channel, and that's where I put all my videos. So out there in my channel on YouTube, I have all these videos that are private. I'm going to get rid of this one. Actually, I'm just going to rename it to old. And back to, I meant to delete that. So back to my channel videos. I want to upload that one that we just created, and it's called Camtasia Tips and Tricks. This is kind of misleading over here because it says create in YouTube Studio, and you're not creating, it's already been created, but if you click it, you have the option to upload. So I'm going to choose upload and then select files, and then I'm going to go get that Camtasia tips and tricks MP4 file, choose open, and then down here at the bottom you have to say yes, it's made for kids, and then next, and then I always choose unlisted because I really just want these for my students, so I share my links, so I choose unlisted and then click save, and it starts uploading. All right, so if you want to embed that into Blackboard, you can, once it gets it loaded, go to that video, go to the link, and then click this share option to get the iframe tag, and that's what I want to put in Blackboard. So now I'm going to go to Blackboard, and I'm going to add that by doing build content item, and I'm going to just call this sample video, and I'm going to click HTML, and I'm going to paste what I copied, and then I'm going to submit, and now my video is accessible from Blackboard just by clicking play. Okay, I know I went extremely fast. That was a lot of information. I will tell you that there is a lot of good information out on the TechSmith website. So I know that I went through so much, and there's so much more out there. So know that there's great tutorials out there that you can use. That's how I taught myself. It was by using the tutorials on that website. Okay, questions? Hello? Y'all there?
Hey, this
Beth,
is Lopa.
I think it's been great. Yes, here we go.
Yeah, I just posted a small note there that Beth, generally I post the web link so that then people go to YouTube to watch my video. I think that makes a bigger screen and everything. So I keep it, you know, the
Make it
web link
public?
itself.
Is that what you're saying? You make it public?
No, I don't make it public. I keep it unlisted, but I post the web link itself, you know, the YouTube link that shows up in the YouTube. Instead of taking the whole, you know, whatever you said, the iframe thing, I post the link. So people click it and they get the big YouTube screen in place of that small little thing in.
Oh, okay. But you can make that full screen. That little bitty thing, you can make full screen.
Okay,
All
right.
Yeah, you can just click on a button and you can make it full screen too. So
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And
so there's
this is Jana. I was just gonna jump in and say I prefer to have the videos embedded in Blackboard, because if you're just linking out to YouTube, I don't know about you guys, but you see all those other suggested videos, and I think it's really easy to lose your students that way. They see those other videos, they can click, and then all of a sudden they're not working on their class stuff anymore. So if we embed it and we put it in the class, they're not quite as distracted.
Ah, that's a good point. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna Manuel. What is the meaning of made for kids in the YouTube video? I remember reading this, and I think there's controls set. If you don't put that it's made for kids, there's controls set on who can view it and who can't, if I remember correctly. I read that a long time ago when I was trying to set this up. Can anybody else answer that?
Okay, so, hey, it's Jana. So I'm trying to see a question about the kids recordings in YouTube. Is that right? I'm not seeing that one. Oh, yes, Manuel, right there. So they just added that functionality on YouTube, I think, because they're trying to be more cognizant of content that's appropriate for children and what's not. And so with instructional videos, I always put that this is not content for children. I mean, Not that there's anything that's, you know, inappropriate on it, but that it's not something I would want to show up on the YouTube Kids app, you know? So I think that's probably why they're adding that in there, is that, like, if your content is appropriate for YouTube Kids, it's probably more likely to be an option on the YouTube Kids app, if that makes sense. So that's why I would just steer clear of that in most cases.
Okay, thanks. Jana,
And Rob,
question?
I was just looking at Rob's question about Kaltura, and I think that's a great question. And if you don't mind, I'm going to write that down. We're having lots and lots of meetings with our IT folks about Kaltura and how we can offer better service with Kaltura. There will be a Kaltura training next week, and I know that's kind of weird because it's getting on to the end of the semester. But I will ask that question, and then we'll certainly see if we can have an answer by next Wednesday, which is when they're doing that training.
And Carla's question, so in Camtasia, you can import any kind or most kinds of video content. I haven't looked at the Collaborate recordings, but I'm assuming that once it's recorded into a file, yeah, you import that into your media bin in Camtasia, and then you can go ahead and start your modifications on that if you need to. Okay, so I'm going to start clicking not for kids. I always clicked for kids because I guess I'm so old that I feel like my students are kids. That's terrible, but it's true. Any other questions? Did I miss anybody?
Oh, I saw that Carla's question in there about the Collaborate recordings using Camtasia. I have done that. And it's really pretty easy. I did that before with the sessions I did a few weeks ago, and then I wanted to add them in Blackboard. So I just downloaded them from Collaborate and then threw that media into Camtasia, because for both of them, I think I forgot to record the very beginning part. So I re-recorded that with Camtasia and then spliced them together, and it worked just fine. I mean, I wouldn't say the recordings are fantastic, but that's because of the content. The technology worked just fine.
Hey, I'm going to answer Edith's question. So, Edith, view notes. If you click on that, you don't have, when it's off, you don't have your notes. When you click on notes, you have the ability to add notes down here at the bottom. Is that good, Edith? Oh, back to Edith's question. Okay, no, I'm not recording part of my screen. When you use the add-in from the Camtasia add-in and you click record here, what it actually does is it just records this part right here, and then my notes I can read, and that's my script over here, but it's only recording this part right here. Does that make sense? Can you upload the modified video to Collaborate? Ooh, Jana.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The question is, can you upload? So if you modify a Collaborate video and then save it, produce a new video, can you upload a video? You can, I don't know why not. You can upload
I don't think so. I don't think you can upload it to Collaborate, right? Because Collaborate is just to record the live sessions. So what I did when I so I took the Collaborate video and I downloaded it, and then I put it into Camtasia and I added, redid the beginning part of it. Then I exported to Kaltura and I embedded the Kaltura video into the course. Does that make sense? So it's still in the course, it's just not in there on the Collaborate page.
But you could show it in Collaborate, correct? You can show a video.
Yeah, so like that original video is still there. Absolutely. I mean, I guess we're in this class right now. I can show you all right now if you want to see what I'm talking about. Sorry, Beth. I will take it over just for a sec so you can.
No, I think I'm done. You're good.
Okay.
Unless somebody else has a question. I don't need my screen displayed anymore.
Okay. I'm going to show you mine real quick then. Okay. So in this course, here we are. I'll go to the recordings. So these were the sessions that I recorded a few weeks ago. So that's them, the raw recordings. There's, I forgot the beginnings on both of them, I think. But if you go over to the videos, and, oh, whoops, no, I put it on the training. This page, this is where you'll see the actual recordings. I guess I uploaded them to YouTube instead of Kaltura. It doesn't matter, either way. But what I did is I took them into Camtasia, I added the beginning part, put both those media pieces together, and then exported, put them on YouTube, and then embedded them back in the class. So I don't know if that kind of addresses what you were asking, but that's always an option too. Let's see.
I think that's it. I don't see any more questions, Jana.
Okay. Great. Thank you guys. Beth, thank you so much. I mean, you've just done so many amazing things with Camtasia. I'm so impressed. I wish you could do like all the videos I ever need to put together.
Wait,
so good.
I just kind of like it. So, you know, when you like something, you work it a little bit. So, but thanks. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Lopa says she generally records her whole screen. She just posted that.
Yeah, I generally show like multiple things at the same time. So PowerPoint and programs running, and so I use, you know, the other things like what you showed, Beth, is really cool, like where you are embedding different things inside one, like you're pulling all this information together in Camtasia. Well, I kind of pull everything on the screen itself and make like one video out of everything. So that's what I do, kind of having the same kind of effect like what you did in Camtasia.
That's another way, yeah. The only thing I can say about that is that if a student's on a really like small monitor, you know, if you have a lot of content out there, just imagine, like I was trying to watch this on my tablet and it was hard to see. So I guess it depends on, you know, how, like I have a 4K monitor. There's no way I would try to put all of that content on a little bitty tablet screen and expect somebody to see it. Yeah,
I magnify it. Yeah, I magnify everything. Like I know, I make every font bigger and all that. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But very cool. Your tips are really cool. I have not gotten time to explore all that. So your tips are great. I'm gonna try all this. Thank you very much.
Y'all are welcome. Thanks. Thanks for listening. Y'all have a good rest of the semester. Good luck with finals, everybody.
Thank you.